everyone. Welcome to the Woolly Wonka Fibers podcast, as well as my Flosstube channel. This is a combined video podcast that has me talking about my knitting, spinning, reading, stitching. Oh, and today there's a special added bit at the end on some journaling things I've been doing. So if that's not your bag, when we get to the end, then you can excuse yourself from the rest of the video. Today is Saturday, the 23rd of June, 2018. Let's see, you can find me on the web. I'm at www.woollyWonkaFiber.com. I have a Facebook group and a Ravelry group, both under Woolly Wonka Fibers, as well as my Instagram account. And then you can also find my sort of personal stitching stuff over at Little Bird Stitcher on Instagram. I hope everybody's doing really great. It is a warm, very warm, sunny day here today. I decided to record this podcast a little on the early side. I went down to Santa Fe this afternoon around lunchtime to meet up with a prospective model for a couple of collections that I'm doing for this fall and into the winter. And I wound up walking around down near the historic plaza after we met just a little bit and had a nice time, but I had actually showered and dried my hair and put on something not covered with dye stains. So I thought, hey, let's just do a podcast. I was going to record tomorrow anyway, but this just jumped it a day ahead, so all good. Let's see. Getting geared up for Stitches Midwest, which is the first weekend in August. If you are planning on attending that show, please come by and say hi to me. I will be in the Yarn Guys booth. Hang on one second, because I have a visitor who wants to come in. You need to come lie down. Lie down. Lizzie just came in. She got one of her frozen Kong treats, and she was downstairs with that in her lair, but I normally would have had her up here with me, but I didn't think you guys needed to listen to her slurp her Kong for the next 40 minutes, so she apparently finished it and invited herself to come and hang out. So anyway, Stitches Midwest. I will be there all of the days of that event. Please come by and say hi if you are there. The Yarn Guys will have some of my yarns, patterns, kits in their booth as well. I will not be teaching there. My teaching gig will happen at Stitches SoCal. I will put a link below to the dates for both of those and the events page from the Stitches XRX website. And I will also put a link to my class schedule, class list for the SoCal show. This is a brand new show, so I have no idea how the classes will sell, but at other Stitches events, they do tend to sell out. So if you think you might want to take either the color theory class, which is for all crafters, it's not just for knitters, crocheters, stitchers, spinners, weavers, quilters, other art things. That one is open to all of those, and then my Fair Isle class is knitting specific, but it does kind of build on the color theory class. So if you took that class, the color theory class, and then took my Fair Isle class, you'd kind of have a color work, how colors work together primer, and that would be a total of 9 hours of that information, should you want to do that. So information below. Let's talk about knitting. So I have been knitting a whole bunch of swatches like crazy. I have one final piece to finish up for my Santa Fe collection in the yarn base that I'm knitting the samples in. Oh, sorry guys, that was a... Okay. That was 65 pounds worth of dog butt slamming into the breakfast stool that I have my iPad sitting on. Classy like that around here. Oh, you guys are sliding again. I'm so sorry. Hang on. Hang it on. Let's see how that goes. Hopefully she won't move because that is sort of affecting it. Anyway, knitting. I'm knitting the last project in the Santa Fe collection. It's a sweater that's knit from the bottom up. I have the sleeves done. I have the yoke joined. I am like going for the home stretch. When I have that done, I'm gonna try to sneak in photos next week. That is my goal. And then hopefully I'll have some previews to share with you guys. Technically not releasing until the 1st of November, but there will be lots of sneak peeks in between. So unfortunately, I don't have like a lot of that type of knitting, which is what I've been focusing on to show you guys, but I will just let you all know that I did start sock number 2. This is a sugar and spice colorway from Opal, not Regia. I think I said Regia in my last video. So this is sock number 2. I think I did get it cast on in just about the same place in the yarn sequence. Here is the yarn in case you're interested. So this is just my very spare, like standing in line knitting. I'm just trying to put a few rows into it so that I can try to get it done maybe before the end of the month for the June Wonka Palooza. If you'd like to jump on board with us for the July Wonka Palooza, please pop over to the Woolly Wonka Fibers Ravelry group. Let's say tomorrow. No, let's not say tomorrow. Let's say this upcoming week at the end of the week, and I should have all the information there. Little more suggestions for some patterns and some colorways that might fit that theme. So yeah, kind of not very much to talk about in the world of knitting. Next up, spinning. I have a finished spin to share with you guys. This is the 70% wool, 30% alpaca that I had been spinning. It is from the Alaskan Yarn Company. It was a gift in a swap, fiber swap. They are in Homer, Alaska on Main Street, if that means anything to folks in Alaska. Hand-painted colorway, 3 ounces of the original roving in the colorway Silver Blues. There is their tag that came with the roving. And I have spun it up into this gorgeously soft and very squishy skein. It's a 2-ply. It's fingering weight. I thought I had the roving divided really smartly, nicely in half, and I didn't. So I wound up losing about 2/3 of an ounce, which when you only have 3 ounces is quite a bit at the very end. And yes, I know I could skein that leftover singles off into a ball and then ply the 2 singles together. I'm too lazy to do that. It's just not, life is too short. 200 yards, 2.3 ounces. So I don't have a ton of yardage to work with on this, but it is so beautifully soft. It's gonna, I know for sure I'm gonna make a cowl out of it, so it will be right up next to the skin. I really like how this colorway came out because it was all of the jewel tones hand painted over a natural gray fiber base. So it kind of antiques the colors a little bit, keeps the jewel tones from being too bright. And I love, it's like just super, super subtle. All those greens and sapphire blues, really pretty. So that is finished, and we'll move from the roving stash to finished yarn stash. And then I started a new spin this morning. Hang on one second, let me grab the tag. This is from FatCatKnits. She sadly is no longer dying. She has beautiful colorways. Anyway, this was the Tour de Fleece colorway from 2015 called Sapphire Cove. And I have mine on Falkland. And it is another gorgeous jewel tone colorway with turquoise and purple and a little bit of gold and emerald in there. And I love I love spinning Falkland. So this is the second half. This is the second 2 ounces. I've already got the first 2 ounces started on my wheel. I'm spinning this up in the hopes that I'll get something like DK-ish. Not a specific plan, but I thought mittens, hats, it'd be a great, like, bright kids color, I think. Or maybe I'll keep it for myself, but you know, I have a lot of hand spun that I never get around to knitting. So anyway, this is what I'm working on currently. We'll see how that goes. I'd love to have it finished by the end of June, but I don't know for sure I can do that. Got a lot on my plate in the next 10 days, 8 days. So we'll see. Along that note, if you are a spinner and want to come join us in the Woolly Wonka group, I have a Tour de Fleece team put together, which kicks off, I believe it's the 9th of July, and runs through the end of the month. So would absolutely love to have you play along if you're a spinner, or if you just like looking at all the pretty hand spun, feel free to come and join that thread. There's a chat thread, so you can, even if you're not necessarily going to participate by spinning, you can come and be part of the cheering section in that forum and cheer everybody on as they spin along with the Tour de France riders. Okay. Books. I started and finished over this last 2-week period the book that Jessie Marie recommended, and I think Michelle Bendy-Stitchy, you've read it. There's probably a bunch of other folks who have as well, and that is A Court of Thorns and Roses. So the author is Sarah Moss. This is the first in a set. I think it's a trilogy. Jessie Marie raved about it, and it had kind of been on my radar as something I wanted to put on my to-read list. Excuse me. And I've been kind of coming to the end of my around the year and 52 books prompts that are things that I would tend to gravitate towards anyway in that sort of fantasy genre. So I was like, oh, I don't know if I have any place to match that in. But luckily, one of the topics was read a book whose subject matter or whose thematic structure was one of the did not make it to the list recommendations, if that makes sense. It was one of the also-rans that didn't get voted onto the island. People didn't like it enough to include in the 52 prompts for this year. And that was to choose a book that had a fantasy type character in it. And since there are fairies in this one, it worked perfectly. So I was really glad that I took the time to kind of go and look at that list. And, you know, it's not a stretch at all to fit it in. So I was 2 thumbs up. I did really like this book. I thought it was well written. I thought it was well paced. The characters are really good. It is sort of a Beauty and the Beast retelling, which I think is the point of it. But cleverly done. I mean, there's points where you're like, oh yeah, I kind of get that storyline, but it doesn't hit you over the head with it. The main premise, if you haven't read it, is there's a young woman whose family is on hard times, and she's kind of the sole glue holding them together. And she is spirited away by one of the High Lords of the fairy courts to repay a debt for, even though it was inadvertent, killing a fairy. And so she winds up at his court, and when we come to find out that all in fairyland is not light and roses, it is a world in turmoil. I really liked the characters that the author developed. I thought the plot was great. It was a fun read. I think I would have liked it better, and this is not to say that I didn't like it, but I think I would have liked it even more if I hadn't just read An Enchantment of Ravens, which has a similar thing going on with the fairy courts and a young woman whose trying to balance being a mortal in the immortal world of the fairies. I would still highly rate this book. Again, I didn't love the fact that when you came to the end, there were some storyline parts hanging, but it's a part of a series, so I guess this is like the new thing. If you're an author and the publishers at all grooving on your book, they just tell you, go ahead and make it a trilogy and we'll mark it for $3. I don't know if that's a truth. I don't know anyone who's in that market that I could say, is this how this works? But it does kind of seem like almost all the books that are out there are part of a series. They aren't just standalone books anymore, which used to be much more prevalent. So, anyway, that was me being a little rambly there. Let me see. I have, my next book topic that I have looked for and that I actually was able to find something at my library. I'm looking to see if I have it on here. I don't think I do. Is a book that has a form of punctuation in the title, and I chose one that has an apostrophe. I will put the link to it below. It's by an author I've read before. It is another fantasy book, because apparently that's what I'm into reading these days. The author is Juliet Mariller, and you may recall I had read, I think, 2 of hers in the last year. They tend to be retellings of fairy tales as well. This is a standalone one. It's not part of one of her series that retells a fairy tale. Winter's Song, Winter's Tale, Winter's... I don't know. I will put the name and the link down below if you are interested, because I did not write it in my little book of notes, and therefore I can't really remember it. Okay, so that's what I have been reading. Next up, stitching. I have an FO, which I am very excited about. This is the Drawn Threads Winter Garden. Let's see if I can back up and get all of it in there at once. This was one of my older whips. It was on my list for a possible finish for Year of Whips. When I picked it back up, I had over to about here done. So all of that is what I have accomplished in the month of June. So the details and specs about this, it is a pattern from the Drawn Thread. The original flosses called for were NPIs and dinky dyes. I converted everything to either Gentle Art or Color and Cotton hand-dyed cotton threads, not silks, which made this much more reasonably priced. Also, I had most of those in stash, so. It is worked on the called for 32 count Witchelt linen in Smoky Pearl, which is this not quite blue, not quite gray color, which I think looks really great with all the snowflakes on it. It does have some specialty stitches. The snowflakes are specialty stitches. Lazy Daisies here. There's specialty stitches here in the conifer, the generic conifer. Long stitches here in the pine. These are also sort of a specialty stitch that's a combination of regular cross stitches and long stitches. But I didn't think any of them were very difficult. I thought that the diagrams that came with the pattern were actually very clear. They show, you know, come up with your needle here, go down with your needle there, then do this. So just going slow and keeping a good eye on what you're doing. It wasn't too bad. I didn't think it was too bad at all. So let me give you some close-ups so you can see the snowflakes. I really like how the conifer tree came out. I think you can see it's very subtly variegated, but it goes from like a darker pine kind of a lighter green, yellowy green. The house. I guess I should say that while I think I had started the skein, I hadn't used very much of it, and because you use it for all the snowflakes, the snow on the roof, and that huge honkin' house, as well as like these flowers, the hellebores, and the snow in the tree, I used a full skein of the chalk and the Gentle Arts floss, which is what I subbed in, and I had to order a second one, and I used, I think, another whole strand of it, so another whole yard. I stitched this 1/2, which is what's called for. Let me just finish giving you guys little close-ups. And I adore this holly bush. Now, okay, this is a very blonde moment, but I was looking at the chart, and the chart's in black and white. And I thought, those are the weirdest flowers. I've never seen flowers on a holly tree like that. And then I stitched the first color, which is this kind of very pale yellow. And I was like, what kind of holly? Like, I've never seen anything that had that color flower on it that anyone is called holly. And then I put the black in, or the dark, it's a dark black brown. And I was like, oh, they're birds, not flowers. Okay, so whoops, but there you go. They're super cute. I love them. And I love the little little pointy holly leaves and the curly vine. So getting back to the 1/2, I wasn't 100% sure that was gonna, like the coverage was gonna make me happy with that, but I'm actually glad that I did it, because I think it gives it almost a little bit of a sort of misty and not in your face color appearance. I mean, you can see a little bit of show through in the dark colors. But overall, I'm really pleased with how it came out. So my plan is to get this framed, and fairly simply framed. I don't want it to become too big. I want to still be able to have it up on my little side table that I have by the door, and have it out for the holidays, or like the seasonal quarter that's technically winter, since it's the winter garden. I do have the summer garden, the fall garden, the spring garden, and I think I have one other, maybe the butterfly garden, that's the same layout. So I'm kind of tempted to see if I could get one neutral frame and be able to pop those in and out for some point down the road when I finish them. But we'll see, because I don't have any immediate plans to start the next one. Although I have to say, this is a really, really fun pattern. So, you know, kind of each little section is its own mini finish. And I could totally see, like, this would be a super cute ornament, just the holly bush by itself with those little birds on it and the script. I mean, any of them would, but that one is extra cute, so. Yeah, so there is my FO, which I'm very happy about. So that takes me to, I believe it's 13 active whips, and my goal for the year is to get down to 12. So you guys, I think I can do this. And that was one of the sort of medium-sized pieces. I mean, it wasn't something I was going to finish in just a couple of days. It took me about half the month to finish that. So I'm not sure what the next project on the works to be finished that I have a chance of finishing is for this year, but I will kind of talk about that when I come to planning. So for the rest of June, I am going to work on my chatelaine again. And I already put this back on the frame last night and started to work on it. Now, I had finished this block, and I had finished the outline for this. So I added in the little bear, and I started what I think they're supposed to be cacti, but they might be just rocks. I'm not sure. Anyway, I definitely want to get this section done, which will not take too long. I'll come back to this in a second. And then I started working on the upper border, which goes here. So this is the very top of the design. And I thought, because it's kind of tedious, I mean, it's very repetitive, and it goes like way the heck out here and way the heck out here. I thought I would just go ahead and work on that while it's here, get the very top done, and then other than the big, there's like one big crystal that sits here. I'm not going to put that in until I'm done and it's off the frame. But I do think I'm going to work the smaller beads as I go down. So if I run into any of those, there's some, I think in the corner, there's corner motifs. But at any rate, as I hit them, I'm going to go ahead and add the beads. So I'm just going to work on this till the end of the month. It'll finish out the month, and whatever I get done, as long as I get this section here done, I will count it a win. So you can see on this little bear, there's all of this is back stitching with the exception of these little triangular spots. Now, the back stitching as it is charted was not very easy to read. There's parts where you're like, does this line continue? Does this line not continue? They don't cut across, like, you know, there's sometimes when you do an angled line, it'll cut across a full block, and that's fine. But some of these lines actually end not in the corner of what is a block. They end or start in the middle. So I'm not even 100% sure I got them all in the right place, but they all fit. And I have to go back and try to find some pictures of this block in a close-up on the internet, because the chart seems to indicate that you're stitching these kind of pale gray motifs on top of the kind of purpley motifs. But again, some of the motifs, like the lines stop and start and disappear, or they turn a different color. So I want to be sure I'm doing that part right, but I need a little visual reference to make that happen, I think. So we actually I have a pottery. It's a little like totem type piece of pottery that's this exact same shape in black with the lightning bolts and other hieroglyph type markings on it in burnt orange. And so maybe next time I show this off, I'll try to remember to bring that so you guys can see it. It's pretty fun. This top border is like a braided leather, like lariat kind of look to it when it's finished. And there's little Cocopelli, the mischievous dancer flautist. It's part of the Hopi tradition. I think it's Hopi. I hope I said that right. Sorry, I'm sorry if I have offended anyone by incorrectly stating that, but Cocopelli is in each corner. Okay, so there is the Desert Mandala chatelaine in its current image. So I will have more to report on that next time I talk to you guys. Okay. Now, this is the end of our regularly scheduled programming. I had some requests after I filmed last time to talk a little bit about my journaling and how I use it to plan and that kind of thing. So if that's not your jam, thank you for watching, and I hope to see you again in 2 weeks. If it is your jam, let's talk about that. So I am somebody who's always made lists and always had a date planner. I tend to like to work off of paper and not off of digital or, you know, something like Google Calendars. It's 10 times easier for me to take a book with me, flip it open, and be like, okay, yes, this fits into the schedule. So I had gotten interested a little bit, I think it was probably the beginning of this year, Jessie Marie started talking about bullet journaling and how she keeps up her journals. And there literally are hundreds of thousands of videos out there on journaling and bullet journaling and the different types of journals. There's art journals, there's writer's journals, there's Bible study journals, mommy and me journals, whatever. There's just, you can pretty much find any topic that you want to do a journal on. It's already out there. But I got interested in doing a little bit of research on the bullet journal concept, and I'll put a link below to the original bulletjournal.com or Bujo website with the guy who developed it. The original concept of the bullet journal was that you could have it be whatever you needed it to be, and that was one of the things I really liked about it. If you go and look at those videos, you'll see that there's a very sort of specific way to set up your journal that the gentleman who came up with the concept follows, and there's tons of people who follow that. You have an index in the front, you have kind of an overview page that gives you a bigger picture of like the month or multiple months. You then have it broken down to weeklies, sometimes to dailies, and then you can also have things called collections, which in essence are just lists of things you want to remember, whether it's a brain dump about, ideas for Christmas gifts, or whether it's like a list of books I've read this year, or a list of places I want to visit. And if you go online and look, whether it's at videos or Instagram or any of the bloggers out there who journal, there is a very high proportion of folks who do their journals as art, and not, I don't mean that they're like making art, each page is like an artwork, although it is to some extent. It's that they're taking their daily or weekly calendar and they're making it into art, where they're spending a lot of time with drawing and watercolors and stamps and just all kinds of things, and they're amazing. And I kind of went down that rabbit hole, but realistically, while I love to do all those things, I don't have time to spend doing that every week. I do have time to spend setting up like a weekly not to-do list, but like a weekly day planner, if you will. And one of the things that I really like about this is you can set it up exactly how you want it. So if you're somebody who likes to have it in a vertical spread, you can do that. If you like to have it, horizontal or vertical, you can have 2 days on one page. You can have 5 days on one page. You can have whatever works for you. Now the key is figuring out what works for you. So I'm going to show you guys first some kind of sample pages that I did, and I thought, yeah, this is the direction I want to go. And then I have refined that as June has gone on, and I think I've finally gotten something that really works well for me. So going forward, I'll show you what that looks like. So originally I had set up this monthly calendar, just some little cute things. These are all stickers that I printed out. This is part of the original bullet journal concept, where at the beginning of the month, you basically number however many days you have in the month, and you put in those things like appointments or things that have to be done on a specific day. This gives you kind of a month overview. So then when you start doing your weekly pages, you will be transferring this information by the week over to pages like this. I had also included kind of a monthly master to-do list that was work items, personal items, creative items, and I had started a gratitude page, which you can see did not get very far. 11th, got through the 11th. I love the concept of that. I can't remember to do it, so I'm not going to waste the space on it. I think it's wonderful if you're somebody who maybe wants to spend some more time journaling in that fashion. It's great to add, and certainly there are things I am grateful for every day, but remembering to write it down in the book is just beyond me. So I had originally done a horizontal spread like this. And so I had, you know, each of the days of the week, and so this would be like what I needed to get done on that particular day. I was keeping a total of the mileage I was running each day and the days I was doing yoga. And I've refined these habit trackers a little bit, which I'll show you in a minute. This worked okay for me, but it didn't work great. It worked okay. So I then went on to this spread, and this is basically what I'm going to be using going forward. Much more simple. One thing I have found that's helpful is I'm trying to do headers and the overall color scheme per month so that if I'm flipping through, I can say, oh, that's everything I did in June because it's all in blue. This is just some washi tape that I liked and I colored in. So I just add things off that very first list. Like, let's say I knew I had a dentist appointment or something on this Monday. So I would put that in there. Once a week, I would take the stuff off that master monthly list and I would put it in here whatever day was appropriate. And then off of my monthly to-do list that were things that I want to get accomplished this month but don't have a specific date that they're happening on, like a specific appointment, I would pick a couple of things each day and slot those in. And then on really busy days and once my week got started, you know, as I had like a phone call, conference call, whatever, those got slotted in. Down here, I just jotted some things not to forget. If there's anything that was this week that needed to get done but wasn't something prioritized to a specific day, I could add it here. And then this column right here is super important for me because basically what it is, it's the short-term to-do list that I know needs to migrate to the next week. Okay, so these are tasks that now need to move to the next week. I also changed up my habit trackers a little bit. I just did them with a very simple list. I quit looking at the mileage I was running. I just have been keeping track because I have stored everything on my Garmin. The days that I do run and the days I do yoga, days that I journal, and then these are crafty things down at the bottom, just to keep track of what I've been doing. And the crafting things I'm going to refine a little bit. And this is why I think it's really important to be able to say, okay, you know what? I'm just going to open up a journal and I'm going to start doing this stuff. I'm going to start putting stuff down and see what I like, because until you do it and you work with it for a week or 2 or 3, you have no idea if this actually suits your lifestyle and your preference style. You may think it does. And I had some preconceived notions about it that were totally wrong. So here is my upcoming week's spread. So I do have a few things, like I have the information that's going to go in the Stitch from Stash group, just a reminder to self what the Winter Garden calculated out for finish credit. I have some things that I've already migrated that were either from, this list that was kind of short-term stuff, or from my event calendar that are specific appointments, or we're just off of this master to-do list for the month. So one of the things that I've found is some printable little stickers that you can, instead of having to draw those little boxes every time for habit tracking, you can just plop one of those in. That's a good time saver. I found a bunch of companies online that you can either order the stickers, like the actual stickers themselves, or you can get a PDF file. And I have, I just ordered from Amazon. It's an Avery product. It's a full 8.5 by 11 sheet of adhesive backed paper. And it's just white, plain white matte paper. And you can get the downloads and just plop those graphics in. Then you can print them as many times as you want. You don't have to pay to have the actual sticker cut out. So I have a mix of those, and I'll show you some of those in my upcoming planner spread. So when I get to the end of June, I'm going to be phasing into a different journal notebook, and I'll save this one for some craft planning, which is what it was intended for originally. Okay, so I'm gonna also include a few links down below to some journaling sites that I've found really helpful, and products. I'm not affiliated with any of them, just things that I found online that I felt were really beneficial to me. So let's see. Let me start first with where I'm going to go with this. I've decided that what's going to work best for me is actually two journals. The teal one is a Leuchtturm 1917 journal. You can get them on Amazon. You can find them in other places. I think Barnes and Noble's bookstores carry them. They're relatively easy to find. They're a nice quality notebook journal. One of the things that I like about them is that when you open them, because of how they're bound, they will lay flat. So they're easy to write on. These come in plain, lined, gridded, and dot gridded, and I have the dot gridded version. So this is one of those online little things that you can find. I have a whole, to finish out the month or the year with, I have a set of 6 of these ready to go. I also added a pen holder, pretty inexpensive. You can find them lots of places online, including Etsy. So one of the journalers who I have been following, who has a blog and YouTube and stuff, is Kara Benz over at Boho Berry. And she does have an Etsy store as well. I'll show you a couple things I picked up from there. But one of the things that she does that I really like is that at the end of June, she treats it as like a half-year Happy New Year point. So she winds up kind of reassessing, where am I at this point in the year with my goals? Where am I with my planning? Like, are there things I want to adjust? So I thought I would take that as an opportunity to start in July 1, with a new day planners type planning. All of the Leuchtturms come with an index in the front. There's actually 3 pages for that. And the thing that's nice about this is all of their pages are numbered. So let's say that I use pages 1 through 8 to do my day planning with, and then I'm like, oh, I have a podcast coming up, and I want to devote a page to ideas for the podcast or things I need to remember to talk about in the podcast. There's no issue with that. You're just like, oh, I'm on page 8. You pop in here and hit your index, and you've got, here's the pages I'm using for the day planner. Okay, so page 8 is now going to be my first July podcast notes. So if you're trying to find something then in the future, and you basically have this entire book filled with stuff, you hit the index, you figure out what page you're on, and you can locate it pretty quickly. So I've gone ahead and set up just this kind of fun visual to start the month off, and I plan to do a cover page like this every month, so I can utilize these cute little calendars, which are actually attached to the tabs. This is all one piece, and then the tab folds over. I just hand lettered this, but I pulled it off of this cute little sticker that I'm going to color in. And so my color for the month is going to be this kind of melon color. This and this and this and this were stickers that I got from the Boho Berry Papery on Etsy. So I got these pre-printed. I wanted to see what they were like what the quality was like, try them out. So these are really nice. They come, it's sort of fussy cut, you know, it's cut all around here. And this page had, I think it was 5 mandalas and a couple of other smaller motivational type sayings on it. And then they come in black and white, so you can make them whatever color you want. So I haven't set it up yet, but this will be my first week in July, and it will look exactly like this vertical spread that I've gone to using. So this will be my calendar. That is my day-to-day, what the heck am I doing today? It will live on my desk, and it's the thing that when I get up in the morning and I'm trying to figure out what I need to get started on first, I come to my day planner. This is going to sound bizarre, but you know, in the past I would have, like every week I would have a weekly to-do list. Here's what I have to accomplish this week. And I'd usually have a monthly one because I have a lot of deadlines that are farther out than a week. And for some reason, that was very overwhelming feeling to me. Like every Monday I would just be like, oh my gosh, I have so much to do this week. I am never gonna get it done. But what I'm finding is if I have those tasks, even if they're on a weekly, here's the weekly list of stuff I have to do, that's fine. You know, maybe there's 20 of them. Put 4 on each day, or put some combination like, okay, I know Tuesday's really busy and that's the day I have to run errands and I have to go to the UPS store and I got to get this thing printed and blah, blah, blah. Put 2 things on that and balance the rest of your week out with the remainder. I can do that. For some reason, knowing that those new things that need to get done this week are on my day planner, but I don't have to keep looking at them because all I'm looking at is what do I got to do today that's Monday? What has to get done today? Now I know there's a whole bunch of other stuff. I mean, those days are not like there's plenty of stuff on them. But if I'm just focusing on Monday, I can feel like extra productive because I can get everything done on that because it's a workable, manageable amount. And if it's something that winds up not being able to be accomplished, like let's say I decide I'm going to do a layout of a pattern, but my tech editor doesn't have the draft back to me yet because she's sick or whatever. It's not a huge deal. I still have that on my daily thing. I just cross through it like I have finished it, but I take that task and I move it, let's say 2 days down the road or 3 days down the road. Or if it's something where I'm like, wow, it's going to be a week before I see this again, that's fine. I put it in the don't forget list that's down here on the bottom of the page. That's right here. So once I do that, I can quit thinking about it. It's, you know, it's on my list. It's going to get done. I don't have to wake up with the crazy monkey brain thinking, oh my gosh, how am I going to get that finished? I got that to do, and I got that to do, and I got that to do, and when am I going to have the time to do it? You know what? I have the time to do it. I just have to not try to do it all in one day. Overachievers Anonymous. Okay, so that covers kind of my day planner, and that's where I put all the stuff like if I have a due date for a pattern, if I have a stitch along, if I have a it's like something in the Full Coverage Fanatics group when I need to do a post reminding folks to get their photos in for one of the stitch alongs, I put that in there. It gets done. It's not a huge deal. You know, remembering all of that stuff, I'm obviously at maximum memory density because I can't remember anything. I can remember that I needed to remember something, but I can't remember what that something was. This has lifted all of that, and I can't even begin to tell you how amazing that is. And it sounds crazy because it's really a simple thing, but it's not until you do it and have it affecting how your daily crazy is happening. Okay, moving on. This is my second book. This is actually a traveler's notebook type setup, and it's a little bit different than your typical journal, and I really like this. I'm actually thinking about getting a larger cover because this does not quite fit in there. See, it hangs out. It's a little bit too big. So this company, which is called Morning Melange, they're on Etsy. You can order all kinds of different sizes of this. There's a true traveler's notebook that's about that big. There's a passport size one that's about that big. This is the A5, I believe it is, size. And the nice thing about these is this is basically your cover. This one is their tooled leather version. You can pick the color of this elastic if you care. But anyway, the way that these are set up is they have removable inserts. You can order whatever kind of inserts you like. You can order plain ones. You can order ones with watercolor paper. You can order ones with sketchbook paper, grids, lined. You can order ones with colored paper. You can go to town. And so the way these work, if you haven't seen them, is these are all in, hold on one second, with these elastic bands. And the elastic band goes right through the center of each of the notebooks. When you use one up, you can take it out and then you just get a blank one and you pop it in like that. That's it. So if you are someone who's like, oh, I hate getting these because I never use them all, or oh, I hate getting these because if I make a mistake or I change my mind or I want to do something different, I can't. This is perfect for you because, you know, if you decide that you don't want one that's just the plain paper and you want one because you're writing short stories that is lined, get one. Replace this out. They're like $4. So what I have found from trial and error with some other, again, sample type notebooks where I've just been trying stuff out to see what I like, is I ordered this, which was like $2 on sale because we're halfway through 2018, but whatever, I don't care. This is a monthly calendar. Each month has its own page. This is also from Morning Melange. One of the things I like is every single month comes with some blank pages behind it. So for this one in June, what I've done is I've done a monthly tracker that this is just a sticker insert. Again, you can get these as downloads and print them yourself and plop them in. So those little daily boxes that are on my weekly spread where it shows, you know, today I did these things, has gotten moved. That information moves to here at the end of each week. And one of the things that I plan to do with this that I think is going to be really helpful, as opposed to just breaking out the crafts that I tend to do every day right here, is I'm going to have specific, because I've got tons of space, specific projects. So let's say like when I'm working on my chatelaine next time in July, for July I'll actually say Desert Mandala, and then I'll mark off the days that I work on that. So I think that'll help me track everything in one place, which will be really nice. And of course you can use this section for anything. If you want to track, did I get 8 hours of sleep? Did I take my vitamins? Did I not eat any sugar today? Did I don't know, whatever you need to do, you could list here and keep a track of it with these monthly trackers. So I have decorated July up a little bit. Again, I'm not spending a ton of time on the artwork. I do like the pretty colors, but you know, I don't really need to do doodles for myself. So these are just pre-bought stickers. So the date and some beach cabana themes. This is from the same set. There's tons of Etsy sellers. Sticker for Independence Day. And so what I like about this is I can have this in my bag that I take basically everywhere. And when I get those, like, you know, the dentist appointment in 6 months, I can put that in there. When I have all of those things, I can get rid of this page, which did not help me that much. This will be acting in place of this because this is how my brain works. For me, it's much more helpful to look at this and say, oh, the 9th is, what is it? It's a Monday. The 9th is a Monday. Just having 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 through the 30th or 31st wasn't helping me very much. This helps me to visualize how my month is looking, where I can fit things in, all of that good stuff. So there's that. The other journals inserts I have in here is my design idea and notes. And these stickers are actually all ones that I made myself using a graphics program I use for work. I just like the mandalas. I think they're pretty. And then I added my title pages so I would know what they were. This is collection and heart songs, which I'll talk about in a minute. And this is my daily journal, which can be anything I want, but I will also touch on what I'm doing with that. So first, let me talk about the collections and heart songs. This is a great place for list makers. So for instance, here's all of my Around the World in 52 books that I've read so far this year. And it corresponds to the weeks. So you can see I've got 2 weeks here that I have to fill in for those 2 topics. And then I'm going to continue working down for the rest of the year. This is I moved my stitching project tracker in here. So when I start a project, I'll add it in here, the date started, and then eventually a date finished. And then these are my current active whips. Excuse me. Really simple. I mean, you could do a lot more doodles and charts and trackers and anything that you wanted. But for me, this keeps me on the straight and narrow. I kind of know what I've got. Yeah, you need to go lie down. Nobody needs kisses right now. So my plan is, this is kind of all of my long-term lists. Like if there was planning for a trip that was several months out, I might include that there, like places I would want to go and see, and here's their addresses and maybe a website contact. Use it to plan some YouTube videos that I want to do. You could use these pages for anything at all. My design ideas and notes, this I have found is going to wind up being super helpful because I wind up doing a lot of work on designs that are in progress while I'm traveling. And so for each design, rather than have this on separate pieces of paper, which is what I have done in the past, or like in a much bigger notebook that then I can't carry with me very easily, this is kind of the snapshot of the next project I'm going to be working on. It's a men's sweater, and this is like the vibe I'm going for to remind myself like where I want to put the design details. This is a photo of the swatch. This is the information about the yarn that I'm using, how many balls of each color, what the colorway numbers are, the size needles I'm using, the gauge I got on the swatch, the size of the sample, and I've broken out like all of the kind of important body measurement points that I need to hit when I'm making the sample down here, so I'm not constantly having to go online and go into my cloud storage and pull that information up and try to remember that when I'm, sitting in an office somewhere or traveling. And then I'm just going to write that first pattern draft right here. I've already just made some early notes to myself. So this will just be a progression. It will not be all of the pesky math that has to happen when you grade a pattern, meaning, I write this pattern off of the sample size. So 42-inch chest. I calculate those numbers. I write the pattern draft. I knit the sample from that draft. And then I go back for all the other multiple sizes and I do the math based on those ratios and the gauge and everything else. So that crazy math has to be done elsewhere because it's pages and pages and pages of my chicken scratch. But this will be a perfect way to reference it, and it's also a really nice way for me to be able to talk to like Dennis and Jeff at the Yarn Guys that I'm collaborating with and say, okay, this is what I have in mind. Can you visualize this for this guy's collection? And this will look, you know, this will fit in here and here. Here are the colors we're talking about. Just be able to have kind of a snapshot, and then my working notes here that can travel along with me anywhere. And I think you could do, I mean, I use this as sort of a business thing because I design knitwear, but you could easily use this to plan out your cross stitch patterns. There's no reason why, you know, in this main collections section, where am I going here? You know, in this book, start yourself a wish list of everything that you would like to get started this year. Or if you were going to do Mania, put your Mania plans in there. And then if you wanted to keep track of where you were, especially if you have a lot of whips, start yourself a page that just has, you know, here's the pattern title, has the information of what you're doing. And then, you know, if you finish this notebook up, slap a date on the front, pull it out, and you can start with a new one without having to pull the other multiple notebooks you're still working in out, because the chances of you using all of these up at exactly the same rate is really pretty slim, or at least it is for me. Like the long-term collection ones, this is going to take me a long time to fill up, and it's going to mostly be like a reference for me. My design ideas and notes is going to be kind of more like a day-to-day or every week kind of usage. And the other way that I'm utilizing my design notebook is to put together kind of a Cliff Notes version of my Pinterest boards when I'm thinking about creating a design and I want to have some inspiration for it. This is going to be a fairy themed piece based on the Summerland court in the Enchantment of Ravens book. And I wanted a lot of these like wine and dark rose and hydrangea colored blues, and I just like the feel, the mood that all of these set. I love this young woman's expression. I think that's just perfect. That sort of slightly sly, slightly seductive look in her eye. Anyway, so it's not to say that these are necessarily like I'm going to copy a design or make a design that looks exactly like any one of these, but it influences my color choice. It influences my overall vibe. How much decoration do I want? You know, how complex or not complex do I want something to be? Kind of what's the overall story I'm trying to tell, so that while I'm thinking about all the pieces that come together for a design, it's all in one place and I can keep referring back to it. And if I'm trying to describe it to somebody, saying, this is what I want this to feel like, you know, this set of images goes a really long way to me saying, well, you know, kind of like the fairies with the darker flower colors and stuff. So this is one of the other ways that I'm utilizing this journal book to kind of help me with my creative process to stay on a path of some choices that I've made. And then finally, my daily journal. I think I had talked earlier, this is going to be a long one, you guys. I think I had talked earlier that I had been following along with this book by Julia Cameron called The Artist's Way. And I did do almost a full month of her daily journal pages. I came to the realization that that is very helpful for me to do that. It does help me kind of start my day off and get my head in a good space to think about something in particular and put it on paper. What I also decided was that I didn't exactly like where her path was going with that book, so I'm not doing that anymore. But what I have decided to do is beginning the 21st for the solstice, I started this book, and each day I'm going to take the prompt from a page in a book. I'll put the link below. It's a whole collection of Celtic themed meditations, and each day is something that has to do with the Celtic calendar, Celtic festivals, Celtic legends, traditions. Some days it's just something to think about. They'll maybe have a quote from an old Celtic proverb. Some days it will be things to think about. How does this Celtic tradition translate to 21st century? And so each day I've just done a header at the top, and then I've included like a quote or a small sort of the thematic point of the day, plus the page title. And I'm leaving space for myself to write some thoughts and think about that prompt as it fits into my day. And then that really helps me kind of think about it as the day goes forward. And there's some very creative prompts in there, meaning there are things that spark creative ideas where I think, oh, that's kind of an interesting idea. What could I do with that? And how it relates to things that inspire me for design. And so I've just been doing that for the last 3 days, but have really enjoyed it. And it's just a page each day. So I'm going to stack in a few other topics for like when I'm on travel, then I won't have to take the daily meditation book with me. It'll all be right here. And I will then have it as a reference going forward to date and just say, here's thoughts from this time of the year in 2018. Okay, hour and 6 minutes. That was a lot of talking today. If you have any questions, please ask. I am happy to try to answer a little bit of all of that mumbling that I did here for the last, I don't know, whatever it's been, half hour on that particular subject. I hesitate to call it life-changing because I don't know that I would maybe go that strongly with it, but let's just say that I have found a lot of value in journaling in this fashion that I didn't think. I thought like lists and a day planner I was good to go, but I'm finding there's a lot more to it that's helping me stay out of creative ruts and stay energized and stay interested and also stay focused and feel like I'm having a very productive day. And I think that you could translate a lot of that into like a crafting journal, either multiple crafts. This would lend itself really great if you do multiple crafty things. You could have one for knitting or crocheting. You could have one for cross stitch. You could have one that was an art journal if you like to do that. You could have one that was just doodles if you like to do that. So there's lots of different ways that you could use this type of format. And I think it's a very flexible one that would work for lots of different things. I know some folks use it for homeschooling. And there's one YouTuber who I've followed who basically has one of these she has one for her personal life, like as an adult, and then she has one of these inserts for each of her kids. So it's all the stuff like their soccer games, remembering when they have to take cupcakes in, whatever. All of those are in there, and so that's her kind of mom Bible reference guide for getting everything done. Okay. Next recording will probably be a little bit later than the 2-week mark because I will be out of town that weekend. But I will get back to you sometime in early July. A reminder, if you haven't checked out Sarah at Stitchin' Mommy's podcasts about her Arbitrary August stitch along, that's going to be all works in progress. Go and check those out because I'm going to be down for that. I will have plans for going forward with that to share with you guys at the end of the month, at the end of July. So I won't see you all until after the 4th of July. If you're here in the US, have a great Independence Day. Everywhere else in the world, hope you're doing great. Have a great couple of weeks enjoying summer or winter, depending on your hemisphere. And I will talk to you guys later. Take care.